Welcome students for Chemistry in Everyday Life part first. In this video we shall be studying about introductory part, mechanism of drug action. The drug, students, is a French word which means dry herb. Most of the drugs which we are using in day-to-day life are synthetic, that is invented by the chemist. Some of the drugs are still derived from various species of plant. Now let us understand the four quadrants of the disease. The first, student, is the diagnosis. The second is the prevention. Third is the treatment. And fourth is the cure. So depending on these four quadrants which helps us to define a drug. Thus, drug can be defined as a substance which is used for the purpose of diagnosis, prevention, treatment, cure or relief of a disease. So, any chemical substance which is used for the purpose of diagnosis, prevention, treatment and the cure of disease can be called as the drug. And students, drugs are the chemicals of low molecular masses, and the molecular mass range between 100 to 500 microns. Drug combines with the macromolecular targets which are present in our body, thus bring about biological response. When we are consuming a medicine, it reacts with specific target cells in our body, thus bringing about a biological response. Now students, question arises that when is a drug called as a medicine? And the answer for this is if the biological response produced by the drug is a therapeutic which would be useful for an individual, then that particular drug is called as a medicine. Let's now understand about characteristics of an ideal drug. Ideal drug should not disturb normal physiological processes that are occurring in our body. For example, student, it can be circulatory system, respiratory system or else excretory system. All these physiological processes must not get disturbed by the consumption of the drug. And the second, harmless on host but should destroy harmful organism in host. That is, the drug must be able to distinguish between host cell and bacterial cells. As a result, the drug must destroy only the invaders, that is bacteria, microorganisms, but must not cause any damage on the host cell. And the third, the ideal drug must have minimum side effects. And the fourth, ideal drug, students, must be localized to affected site. The drug what we consume in the form of medicine, it must be affecting at a specific site in our body. It is called as localized effect. Then students, if drugs are taken in higher doses which would not be recommended, it causes the poisoning and results in the death of an individual. Moving to the next one, some of the chemicals bring about therapeutic effect when injected in the body. So thus results in chemotherapy. Now students, let us study about criteria for classification of drugs. And the first one is pharmacological effect, second drug action, third chemical structure, fourth molecular targets. Examples of pharmacological effects are analgesic and antiseptic, whereas drug action, antihistamines, chemical structure, sulfonamide drugs, and molecular target students are proteins, enzyme reactors, nucleic acid, that is both DNA and RNA as targets. Now let us study about mechanism of drug action, which is based on molecular targets. When the target of the drug is a specific protein, then students, proteins consist of two main parts. The first one is the enzyme and the second one are the receptor sites. So depending on the enzyme and depending on the receptor site, the drug which is injected within the person would be acting on a specific protein. Now students, let us study in detail about enzymes. Enzymes are the biocatalyst, and the name biocatalyst is used because these are the catalysts which are present in life. Thus, enzymes are biocatalyst, and enzymes change the rate of a reaction without undergoing any chemical change within themselves. And this enzyme, students, was discovered by William K. Moving to the next one, enzyme action. Enzymes react with specific molecules in our body. For example, it can be substrate molecule, and students, enzyme action we can study with lock and key model. Specific enzyme would be acting on specific substrate. Thus, when enzyme reacts with substrate molecule, it results in enzyme substrate complex. In this way, enzyme combines with a specific substrate and brings about decomposition of the substrate molecule. And during the reaction between enzyme and the substrate, students, a specific part of the enzyme molecule comes in contact with the substrate, and that specific part of the enzyme is called as active site. If we consider the substrate molecule which is having a specific site which is exactly the complementary for the substrate molecule. As a result, when the substrate molecule occupies the active site, then enzyme activity starts and results in breaking of the substrate molecule. Always, student, enzyme and the substrate would be having complementary structure with each other. Let us understand this with the help of lock and key model. If we consider the enzyme and which is having two active sites. Thus, student, when substrate molecule comes in contact with the enzyme, so it is a highly specific reaction, just as specific key would be used to open the specific lock. In the same way, specific enzyme is binding with specific substrate molecule. As a result, we get enzyme substrate complex. If students, substrate molecule is exactly different, not complementary with the enzyme, then enzyme won't bind with the second substrate molecule. Thus, only a specific substrate combines with a specific enzyme to form enzyme substrate complex. Then students, by the enzymatic action, we get the products. Thus, this explains about lock and key mechanism. Thank you, students. In the next video, we shall study about chemistry in medicines. Thank you.